Hello, welcome to episode 3 of Behind the Machine. And on this episode, we're talking about planning a shoot, the details that are involved in that, all the different aspects of how you're going to have a great shoot. And with that, I have again VP of Production at VeeKast here, Daniel Alfonso. So let's dive in, Danny. Talk about what is necessary for the planning of a good shoot.
Definitely. Yeah. So there's a lot of things that you can imagine that goes into planning a shoot to be the most successful that it can be. And one thing that we're going to talk about today, which I think is one of the things that I always focus a lot of time on, is developing the shoot schedule. So a shoot schedule, when you do it properly, you can fit everything that you need to and that you want to in that set time frame, whether it's one long day of 10 hours shoot or whether it's a 5 hour day. As long as you plan with these following tips in mind, then you'll have a successful shoot. So, tip number one for scheduling your shoot: what is only happening on that day that is relevant to your shoot. When we talk about that, we say what is something visually that can be filmed that maybe is happening with your organization. Maybe there's a particular time of day where there's going to be a group activity of some kind, or maybe there's a meeting coming up where that will give the excuse for maybe more people to be incorporated in your video in the B-roll shots and the visuals than maybe usually would come in. So if there is something that is only happening on one day of that week that you're looking at, where you'll have more that you can film, more activities that maybe show off what you're trying to show in that video, then definitely prioritize a block of time to film some of that activity.
Before you continue, at least one of the questions that come to mind then, and you're thinking about pretty much trying to take advantage of the full time of the shoot really well, right?
Definitely.
And because I know sometimes when I'm having that pre-discussion before you take on the project, a lot of the time they're not individuals are not thinking about, okay, well, you want to get this interview, but you want to get this B-roll, but you have a certain amount of time of filming you can do in a day. And I'm always kind of saying to them, when you talk to Daniel, you're going to really get into the meat of this, but you really need to try to get as much as possible in that day, in that time that you're already using, and therefore you need to think about what is actually happening. Is that what you're referring to?
Yeah, so that first tip is related to possible B-roll shots, visuals that can only happen on a certain day of the week because maybe there's more people in the office that day, or maybe there's people, potential clients or participants of the organization that you serve that are gonna be present on one day out of the week. Then that will help you determine that the shoot should be on that day, as opposed to a day where maybe the location that you're filming at, your office, it might be empty, or you might not have that many people around to get some shots of. So that's a part of a determining factor, even choosing the day, is you should choose a day where you have the most opportunity to film things that will illustrate what you do or what your focus is for that video. So that's number one. Then it's also about uh, prioritizing and scheduling people into time slots for essential voices. So we're talking about interviews. So we're saying
Mm-hmm.
these are the people that are most important that have to speak in this video. I need to make sure that I designate a time slot in our day that we will definitely get them. So, why am I saying it this way? Because sometimes people don't want to assign a dedicated time slot to certain voices that they want to get in their video. Maybe they say, "Oh, well, they're too busy. We don't want to inconvenience them by kind of blocking a set time, or we just want to leave it flexible for them." Understandable to a degree, but if you don't actually block a time that you're holding for them, then things can overlap with the next person or the previous, you might run out of time, and then you can't fit that most important person because they just showed up whenever they wanted to show up. So I highly recommend designate your time slots. So that's a part two for your interviews. And then next tip, number three, is find out how long that you actually need for each of these blocks in your day. So, how do you know? You're not a video professional, but thankfully I am. I'm going to try to boil it down for you just a little bit. Some tips related to timing right now, really quick. So, speed run. How long does it take to film some visual stuff, some B-roll, some shots that aren't speaking, some things that,
Oh yeah.
let's say you're gonna do a fake meeting with your peers, and we just want a shot that looks like an important meeting. How long could you put in your schedule for that? For me, I say all visual ideas. If you just pick one visual idea, you only need 15 minutes. 15 minutes of filming. So, this goes into another consideration, which means you can get exact with this stuff, but it's usually a good idea to put an extra 5 minutes before something and an extra 5 minutes after. That's
Because
your
it's gonna, you never know how long it might take.
Exactly. Not only that, it's also because sometimes I joke with the team about this when we're scheduling. Sometimes I'm saying they say, okay, we're gonna be. It looks like they gave us a draft of their schedule that they're thinking about right now. They have this person that we're interviewing in this room on this side of the building, and then as soon as that finished, we're gonna film this fake meeting on the opposite side of the building, and they only put 15 minutes. And I'm like, okay, hold on, we can't teleport. We cannot teleport. As much as we want to be able to go from one side immediately to another place and already start rolling the camera, it does not work like that. So you need 5 minutes, 5 minute gap at least before and after each item so that you have a safety of actually being able to walk.
Yeah, and you gotta pack up all the gear, pack up all the lights if you're using that for some of those shots as well.
Yeah. So that's when it comes to visuals, I say 15 minutes is the minimum, and if you have to kind of walk a little bit, put an extra 5 at the beginning of that, put an extra 5 at the end. So that's more like a 20-25 minute time slot on average for visual examples, visual scenes. And
So that's why sometimes I know from my end, and even when I was always in the field before, I'm. It's funny sometimes with clients when I'll have the meeting because I'm always able to sort of tell somewhat level of how much time they're going to need based on the scope of what they're trying to communicate, how many people they want to talk to, and some ideas. And sometimes they're like, "Well, yeah, I believe you can just get there and just film this in half day." And I'm like, "No, based on the amount of people you are talking about, we're trying to get supporting B-roll for this, the locations of where you're thinking. No, you need more like a day and a half or a full day or whatever." But it's just a matter of sometimes because, of course, they're not professionals at video production. They're not thinking of all the things that go into shooting. It's not like grabbing your phone and just going here and recording this and going there and recording this. You got to think about what does it take to get there, what equipment is necessary. We're trying to maintain a certain level of quality and image for the video and for your organization. So it's not just so just throw something there, go over there, here and here, and it's not like a news shoot where it's what we like to call in filming ENG style filming or run and go filming. It's really thinking about all the aspects that help to keep that level of quality the same in wherever we go. So we got to think about that when we're filming. It's a little bit deeper than just going, right?
yeah, exactly. So that's why, like, this, what I've shared so far doesn't even scratch the surface really of like how I put together a schedule. It's just kind of give you all a little bit of an idea that like you need to think about the timing of this a little bit more, because if you don't, then it's really just kind of a free for all where you're just kind of hoping that you can fit everything that you wrote down. But if you don't actually play it out in your head, how long does each thing take? Do we have enough time to actually move from one place to the next? Have you planned all of that? If you don't, then you're just hoping. And for me, I like to get it down to like a science where like literally everything is fit exactly, and even if some surprise happens, which we know it happens, there's some surprises that are not planned for and not anticipated, and they might throw you back like um, behind schedule by like an hour or an hour and a half. And the good thing is that because of how I plan things, there's always a way to catch back up. How do you do that? How you might be asking me, right? How do you do that? How do you have time so you can catch back up, even if you're behind by like an hour or something like that? Well, that's where certain things come into play about those little 5-minute cushions at the start and end of some of those time
Oh
slots.
yeah, that we talked about, right?
And if it's a longer day, say it's like a 10-hour shoot day, then um, that is also a flexibility of um, how the middle part of the day can be your catch up. What do I mean by that? The window of time when there's a break to have lunch, and then I usually plan that the first thing after coming back from lunch is what we call a interview setup change. So that means that, okay, after we get back from lunch, we're gonna change the angle of our interview, how the interview shot looks like. And because I usually do that together, lunch and then the setup change, that's actually the perfect opportunity to be able to catch up, because we can speed it up if need be, and have a faster lunch, and then there's ways to also speed up how long it takes to change the view of the interview shot, and then boom, there you go, all of a sudden we're back on time, or we've reduced our delay by only like maybe 15 minutes. And now what happens next? If the first thing after that is an interview, then we just need to be able to condense our interview time. If we can fit our interview in less time than usual, then all of a sudden, look at that, we're back on time for the rest of the
Back on
afternoon.
time. Yeah. Well, that's some really good advice. So, I mean, if I was to kind of compile that, I know there's more that we can give here, and we can continue in the series of giving a lot of this advice. But what I gather, even from you doing this every day, is that planning and scheduling is really can be a science, in that, if you don't, you can't just throw some stuff together. You have to really put it in a structure that not only helps you to get the day organized and flow well, but also leaves room for surprises, which are inevitable.
That's
Right.
right. That's right. So yeah. So I mean, obviously, as you could probably tell so far with how I've been talking, there's a lot more that we could go into, but we want to keep these somewhat condensed so that you will actually absorb and retain some of this stuff. So I think I'll
Yeah.
I think I'll cap my little scheduling rant for now here. But maybe we'll revisit scheduling at a later time, and we'll get a little bit more in the weeds of it. But I hope some of that was helpful for you.
Absolutely. Well, thank you, Danny, for taking the time and sharing with our viewers all these tips. This is Daniel Alfonso. He does this all day, every day. So if you have any questions, you can always reach out to our team, reach out to him. He'll answer. So for all of you that's joining us on this episode, we're a few minutes in, but thank you for watching. Thank you for joining. If you aren't subscribed already, subscribe. If you aren't following already, follow. We'll continue to put these out for you, provide valuable tips. And with that, I'll see you next time on episode 4. Bye bye.